This is one of the most difficult challenges to belief in God.
Oh, I know this one. It's because, right, he's not real. Yeah, that's a toughie. When people are all like, hey, you should believe in my imaginary friend, because he says otherwise he's going to peel your skin off. And I'm like, okay, but my imaginary friend said the exact same thing. I know. Let's just split the difference, and neither of us believe in completely weirdly violent nonsense monsters. And call it a day. Sounds good to me. Anyway, the real thing you should be worried about is me.
If God is all good and all powerful, then why is there evil and suffering in the world?
Because he's also all lazy. No one ever wants to bring up that part. God is just the best at doing so little that he might as well not even be there. The great omni-idol he is, man makes me jealous of his total lack of motivation to do fucking anything. Also, fun idea, if one is omni all the things, what's to say that you couldn't be both all good and all evil? I mean, you have the all powers of magic and shit. What if the guy's basically got multiple personalities? I mean, if you read the Bible, that shit rings scarily true. The wild changes in personality and what he wants are really weird otherwise.
Now, this isn't just an academic challenge.
I think it's all academic, actually, because the fact of the matter is, he doesn't fucking do anything. So going on and on about whether he exists or not in a universe that he clearly is having no interaction with is kind of a waste of time, and definitely talking about the things that he does to boot, when there's just so much other shit you could be getting on with. I mean, the classic religious boy argument that I hear is, if God, man, and real, then doing religion is a good call and atheism is wrong. But if God isn't real, doing religion somehow isn't wasting time in your one life, where there's just so much shit you could be doing otherwise. Cognitive dissonance is a hell of a drug.
It's deeply personal, especially for those of us who have experienced evil and suffering.
I mean, there it is, really. Deeply personal, yeah. You know, like unique to you. You know, like something that isn't actually real but feels real to you. That's what it is. And who the f*** hasn't experienced suffering? I mean, very literally, no one has not experienced some amount of suffering. Everyone has had the worst moment of their life. And while worse things happen to others and may happen to them in the future, one's suffering up until that moment, no matter how insignificant it could seem from another's perspective, is still the worst thing that has ever happened to them. And that shit sucks. One thing I always liked was how someone explained to me how babies cry so much, because almost everything negative that happens to them has a high chance of being the absolute worst experience of their lives. And fuck that.
Now, I don't have any illusions that I'm going to answer the problem of evil in this short video.
Oh, don't worry about it, man. I am sure that you couldn't answer the problem of evil in a long video either, because it's a problem entirely constructed of your guys' own terrible definitions of God and the fact that bad things happen all the time in the world. Also have to mention, as always, that even though dumb theists think that the problem of evil is something that atheists have to have an answer for, we actually don't. The existence of suffering in an uncaring universe is absolutely something one would expect in such a place. And just because it's sad that it happens doesn't have any effect on my belief in any deities. I mean, humans exist, and I'm not suddenly going to start worshipping Zeus in the vain hope that he's going to smite them. That guy's almost as lazy as Yahweh.
However, I want to highlight some of the ways that Christians have responded.
Is it poorly, with specious reasoning and goalpost shifting moon logic, that whatever happens you cannot admit that maybe, just maybe, the Bible was written by some dumb assholes that didn't really think about the consequences of making the ultimate Mary Sue in all of fiction, and then pretending that the guy was fucking real?
These are typically called theodicies. They are reasons why God might allow bad stuff to happen.
I always like the term theodicy. It sounds a lot like, well, the Odyssey, and I don't think they're related, but it's the one by good old Homer. And I never realized that the cartoon character had existed since such olden times. Learn something new every day, don't you?
For example, we might talk about the fall.
Hey, why would you even bring that up? Just because one time I was so drunk that I fell into a well, that doesn't mean that God is real and that evil is fine. Unless you mean that other time I was really drunk and fell down a different well, or the other time I fell down the first well. But I wasn't drunk then. I was just really, really hungover. So that doesn't count at all.
The world isn't the way God originally made it.
There's two ways of looking at this one. Of course it isn't, because it's changed so much over time that anyone expecting things to be the same would be a goddamn fool. And damning yourself is my job with Whiskey and Wells. But on the other hand, it's pretty much 99.999% exactly like he made it. As much as from the human perspective, things are really different today than they were 1,000 or multiple thousands of years ago. But on a geological scale, the Earth is actually not that different. I mean, wipe out all the humans and it will go back to God's design surprisingly fast. So it can't really be that far off. And shit, on a cosmic scale, basically nothing has changed at all. And God allegedly built all that, so the Earth itself is basically less than a margin of error in terms of how much impact it's had on the everything.
Human beings were placed into the Garden of Eden, and it was good.
No, you messed that up. That couldn't be how those words go, not in that order. The Garden of Eden was good, then human beings were placed in it, and immediately opened up a chain of Starbucks and 17 Greg's bakeries. And then it was really good, until of course people actually started using them, being shitty to the staff, and being super surprised when their coffee and sausage roll started to taste funny.
But they disobeyed. They brought sin into the world.
I'm sorry, but how the has that ever made any fucking sense whatsoever? No. If I have a bunch of, I don't know, cows, super healthy ones, and then one day I bring in some more cows, and those cows that I fucking put there have the old BSE or mad cows disease, you don't blame the fucking cows, do you? You blame me. That was my fault. I should have checked to make sure that they were healthy before introducing a contagious disease to my healthy bovine, and certainly not punish all cow kind forever for my mistake. And then I'm definitely not going to clone myself into a cow and have that cow clone killed in order for me to finally decide that fine, I guess I'll stop torturing all cows forever. I think that would be a little bit weird, don't you?
And that act of sin has consequences.
I don't know how, again, put them there, and that means their ability to commit sin as well. The fact that he chooses to make them able to do a thing he doesn't like and will be super pissy if it happens is just bizarre. If I'm building a computer, do you know what I'm not going to build into it? The ability to explode like a nuclear bomb and not only wipe out all my data, but my freaking house as well. That's like the opposite of what I want a PC for. I build it to acquire more dumb.
The Apostle Paul says that the whole creation has been groaning.
The whole of creation has been groaning. What, like whinging and whining and all that? Or like, groaning? That noise you hear from your parents' bedroom on the first Sunday of each month when they practice their wrestling moves on each other. That kind?
So there's the fall.
Yeah, shit theodicy for wankers that only results in, so it's God's fault there is evil. Sounds pretty fucking not all good or not all powerful to me.
Next, some Christians appeal to human free will as another reason why God might allow evil and suffering in the world.
Yeah, and this is also a shit theodicy for wankers because the existence of suffering goes so far beyond the existence of humans that the idea of free will or no, that it is somehow their fault and not, the big man's, is completely ridiculous. I mean, again, empty out all the humans, suffering will still exist. Animals suffer all the time from things entirely in nature. Nature, by the way, that your God would have designed, if he existed, and thus is entirely responsible for.
The free will theodicy posits that evil and suffering exist as a consequence of humans having the freedom to make choices, which includes the possibility of choosing to do evil.
And entirely ignores the fact that bad things happen regardless of those choices. Even with a world full of humans making what could be completely libertarian, free will-esque choices, there are plenty of bad things that happen both to them and to other creatures regardless. In fact, humans will often make choices in an attempt to reduce suffering. And even though some of those don't end up working, the ones that do. And yet, suffering will still happen if they do that, or if they do things to cause it, or if they do absolutely nothing, because suffering is an inherent part of existence. If there was someone in charge, I would think that he was kind of a dick for making things that way. Luckily, there isn't.
As a matter of fact, the Bible's full of people exercising their free will in disobedience of God, and suffering results.
Really? The storybook about how you should definitely do all the things that my real guy that exists says you should do is full of examples of people not doing what he says and then bad things happening. Well, lucky for you, me old dish, none of those things actually happened. No one disobeyed the God-man because, right, he's not real. He is a character that they made up, and then the stories are supposed to scare you into behaving a certain way, and that's it.
Another reason might be for a greater good.
Oh, here we go. This one's always even more fun than the last. The greater good argument, aka no. It's a good thing that you had your arms and legs torn off and then were skinned alive and somehow managed to survive all that, to live out many, many years in complete and total agony with no way to do anything about it. On top of the unbelievable trauma that would have resulted. But it's okay because it's all part of God's plan that needed to happen because you couldn't, shit. Nothing I say now is going to sound anything but psychotic hand-wavy, isn't it? I mean, even if you're given infinite bliss after, what the fuck did you learn apart from nothing? And anyone who suffered less than you and got the same reward is in a literal sense benefiting infinitely more than you. It's the stupidest fucking argument for anything ever. And there's a reason why the phrase, the ends don't justify the means, doesn't mean, yeah, do whatever the fuck you want so long as you get your way in the end.
Greater good theodicies posit that despite the presence of evil and suffering, there exists a greater good or purpose that justifies or outweighs the existence of such evil and suffering.
Except, does it? There's no amount of nice things I can do for you where you are going to forgive me if I beat the shit out of you every day for 10 years. You are more than likely going to forever think I'm a piece of shit and be terrified of me, that I might randomly start assaulting you again. And that trauma is going to exist with you for the rest of your life to boot. Now, I could go all Nurse Ratched on you and give you a lobotomy against your will, but now while I might have made you calm, I also completely destroyed your ability to have any enjoyment outside of that which I give you, if even that. I am still a fucking monster. Nothing I can do will change that. Perhaps what I should have done was not fucking torture you in the first place, because no matter what you do after the fact, you will always be the cause of that suffering.
One example is found in Genesis 50:20. Joseph endures tremendous evil at the hands of his brothers.
I mean, we have all had evil done to us at the hands of our siblings, and if you're not an only child and think to yourself, that never happened to me, well, congratulations. You were that much of a piece of shit that they didn't even consider doing anything back to you, because you were the sort to return anything at least tenfold, because how dare they do anything to you and your important ass. And no, I refuse to believe that it's actually because you were all super nice to each other and a happy family. That just means that you were out there capturing tourists to torture and eventually eat. So don't even start. I mean, did you share any with me? No, bastards.
But he says to his brothers, "As for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, to bring it about that many people should be kept alive as they are today."
That was fucking meaningless. He had awful shit done to him by his brothers so other people could be alive, and that is somehow God's doing? I mean, for a start, there's plenty who would argue that causing people to exist is itself an act that causes more suffering than anything else and is potentially bad because of it. So good job, Joseph. And then there's the fact that, hey, all-powerful God, if you want people to exist, maybe, don't use torture as a way of making that happen, you prick. You could just magic them in. Unless, of course, you aren't all-powerful and thus can't do that. Hum-de-hum-de-hum.
Of course, Jesus' death on a cross would be another example of a great good coming from a horrendous evil.
I have always really disliked the Jesus sacrifice bit because it is so overblown. A punishment that happened to countless people. They all suffered and then they died forever. But this one guy does it, and it's like a spa weekend. He comes back later, literally looks like a new man. If only we were all so lucky. Also, the whole Jesus coming back thing, but looking completely different, that is really friggin' sus. If someone died, and then I stole the body and paid an actor to tell everyone else, no, actually, he's back. I didn't do a miracle. No, I did fraud and identity theft. You know, crime.
Another reason why God might permit evil and suffering is called the soul-making theodicy.
Isn't this just the greater good with extra steps? Not to mention the whole problem of fairness all over again. If the soul is needed, but souls are essentially all basically the same, then it's super shitty if you got your soul from some harrowing experience where you fought through 7 wars, saving lives and taking bullets for your comrades, and then some other dipshit got their soul because they broke their leg and walked on it for about a day before realizing what had happened and went to the hospital, because they realized they were being a dumbass. It's not great, is it?
It's argued that some evil and suffering is necessary for the development of human souls. In this view, this world serves as a veil of soul-making, where struggles and trials faced by individuals contribute to the formation of their characters.
Okay, but again, if that's what God wants, why can't souls be made without it? He is all-powerful. He should make the souls without the need for endless pain. It seems intentionally cruel, because it is. Luckily, again, souls are about as real as God is.
This world gets us ready to spend eternity with God.
That doesn't even start to explain how he could be all good, though. Again, with all power come all responsibility. I think that's from Spider-Man. If you made it so suffering was necessary, something you did not have to do because you could do anything, then you are, as a matter of fact, fucking evil. If I punch you in the face before I let you leave my house, that doesn't make me good just because after I break your nose, I do in fact let you out.
Finally,
okay, let's make it a good one. And no, by good, I do actually mean not extremely stupid. Because sure, it's good for us when it's dumb, but I would just like this guy to get one win. I'm not mean. Otherwise, I'd be his god.
Some argue that God allows evil and suffering because he wants to reveal certain things about himself that otherwise we wouldn't know.
Then he should just fucking tell us. Me. Of all the ideas in this video, this is easily the worst. The fucker apparently used to talk to people all the time, and now the only way he can communicate is through broken legs and dead babies. Sure, it tells us that he's a giant fucking asshole. And, well...
Wait, before you go, I have something super important to tell you. It's life or death. It will change everything forever. Nope, wait, it's gone. Oh well, probably wasn't important. But while I have you, don't forget to comment, subscribe and notify. And if you want more of my smexy voice, check out Mrs. Six's channel Spoonstaff Stories, where I narrate and voice all the videos. And she does the work. And if you want to support the channel, check out the merch store for cool t-shirts, or check out Patreon, memberships and PayPal to support directly. Finally, follow me on the medias of social to get completely pointless guff and to keep up on the latest releases. Oh, I just remembered what I was going to tell you. Whatever you do, don't touch the